I'm focused on his spirit cause it keeps me from his fire. The Holy Ghost is with me, so my fear I leave behind. My sins were all diminished when he took that breath and died. And if you think I'ma give up on my God, the devil is a lie. The devil is a lie. The devil is a lie.
Hello, hello. This is Christina Barr, and you're watching Black Tea News. Hello, hello. Welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to be talking about this case that has gone before the Supreme Court. There's a school district that doesn't want to allow parents to opt out of their school curriculum when they learn about like LGBT stuff. They have certain books and stuff. They have an inclusion part of their curriculum, and they don't want parents, even parents with religious held beliefs, deeply held beliefs, to be able to pull their kids out. And the reason why they don't want too many them to have the option to do it is because too many kids, in their opinions, will pull out. Now, if there's too many parents who want their kids to pull out of your curriculum, maybe you should rethink your curriculum. Maybe you should rethink your curriculum. It's not like we're talking about science. It's not like we're talking about math. If people got together and was like, you know what, I have a sincerely held belief against math. That since when? Like, but you feeling that you need to teach kids about drag queens and transgender issues, that is completely inappropriate. And we are at the point where they don't even want parents to have the option to opt out. I hope this is a 9-0 case. I don't know, because Ketanji seemed to be saying some wild stuff, but we'll be listening to some of the clips from the deliberation and some of the news coverage about it. But yeah, that's basically going to be the focus of today. I'm sure I'll have plenty to talk about today, folks. And we've just completely come a long way from hey, people just, it's not your business what people do in the bedroom, and now it's absolutely your business what people do in the bedroom. You will affirm us, or else you can't even opt your religious kids out of learning about what we do in our bedroom. It's just it's just a lot that's happened over the years. And you know what? It's not like the religious folks didn't know about it. I got a troll at my comments asking, do I like cheeseburgers? Heck yeah. Heck yes, I like cheeseburgers. Who doesn't like cheeseburgers? Who doesn't like cheeseburgers? Anyway. Before we jump into everything, I want to encourage you guys to go to blacktnews.com, check out different content, the website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate, because it does cost a stream, run my website, all that good stuff, so you guys can support. I very much do appreciate it. If you guys also want to look at different merchandise, we have different merchandise at the website, like I'm Not the Victim You're Looking for all the trolls out there. So we got those kinds of things at the website that you guys can check out. Also have different books you guys can check out as well. Like my book, Of Course God is Blatantly Against Abortion, that's available as well. So anyway, lots of cool things to check out. I'll be at Motor City Comic Con in May. So if you guys are in the area, I invite you guys to come out and check out some of my stuff. I'll be there with my younger sister, who does some art. She did the art for the cover for Of Course God is Blatantly Against Abortion. And we're not going to be able to have this done by Comic-Con, but she's working on the illustration for my children's book, Bigger, and it's so cute. It's about a little baby dinosaur who desires to be bigger. So I'll let you guys know when that drops. We still would like to get out this year, just couldn't make it happen by the time Comic-Con happened. I want to thank everyone who's watching and everyone who's watching live, and to those of you who watch back later, and those of you who drop comments, in the in the comment section. All those things help and stuff. So thank you to Tinfoil Ghost, says my hair looks pretty today. Thank you. um I had for Easter, I got, some time ago I got this flat iron thing. It's not a flat iron, but it's like a hot, sort of like a hot comb, but it's not quite a hot comb. And so I press my hair real straight, I flatten it and stuff. And then by the time, before I even left, humidity, poof, my hair right up. And so, oh gosh, I dropped a water bottle. And so I did have time to do my hair all over the process again, but I just did the flat iron through it and it was still poofy. But I like by the time I left again, and so it was poofy, especially the back. I sweat like in my face, like I don't know if you guys can see it from now, but my nose is already sweating right now. So I decided to go ahead and press it, wear it down, and I turn on the air. So hopefully it doesn't, it's a possibility that you might see it increasing by the minute, but thank you for noticing that I pressed it. I have a new lip color on today too. It's one of the colors actually that my I think one of my nieces probably got me for Christmas, or it could have been one of my sister, their mom, but I'm not sure. I put all their stuff in like one little bag and hadn't really broke out that stuff yet. So I didn't mean to pick one that dark, but I think it looks okay. Anyway, enough. We can get to the actual content of the day. So I want to start off by, I'm going to play this clip covering it from CBS Mornings because it has a couple interviews from the people who were pushing it. This court case that has now gone before the Supreme Court about school curriculum and an inclusion program that they have, and they want to make it so that religious groups cannot opt out. So it's not just Christians or Protestants and Catholics. You also have Jewish families and Muslim families are against this curriculum being taught to their children, and they're not even trying to get the curriculum thrown out in this case. They just want the option to opt out. That's what they want, and the school district doesn't want to allow them to opt out because they believe that that'll just hinder too much of their inclusion program, and then too many people will actually opt out. So I'll play a clip of them actually talking about that in the ruling. But first, let me play this clip. This is a video that Good Morning CBS played on TikTok. So that's where I saw this one at. So here we go.
I heard arguments this week on a case with big implications for schools across the country. It's based on a lawsuit filed by parents who do not want their kids to hear storybooks that include LGBTQ characters.
It's breaking our community apart.
Billy Moses and Grace Morrison are mothers of elementary school-aged children at the center of a fight over parental rights and religious freedom that has landed at the Supreme Court, with both sides making their arguments on Tuesday. It started when school officials in a Maryland county told parents their children could no longer opt out of classes when teachers read from these new storybooks with gay, lesbian, and transgender characters and themes.
It should be up to her father and I to decide how and when to present these things, not the school.
But school officials said so many parents were choosing to opt out, it was unworkable and at odds with their commitment to diversity.
LGBTQ inclusion isn't just a one-day event.
Mark Eckstein is a gay father who helped introduce the books into the curriculum.
This is just a way to kind of make sure that these issues are covered and also representative of the community.
Parent Bridget Howe also supports the books.
I think we need to say as a community that we are accepting and inclusive of all of our community members, and that includes in the storybooks that our children have access to in our schools.
But to Moses, the books force people of faith out of the schools, the opposite of inclusion.
My parents moved our family from overseas because they thought school was important, and to be in the best country in the world, to have the freedom to learn and yet worship God. But being forced to choose between God and education has been very hard.
Now, a majority of the justices were sympathetic to those parents who just say they want to send their kids to public elementary schools without compromising their faith. The conservative justices in particular seemed in favor of requiring that opt-out option for parents, while the liberal justices seemed to side with the school district. They said, like, how does this end? Where would you draw the line here?
With things that are necessary to be taught, like transgenderism, drag queens, drag is an adult entertainment profession. Like, why would you have people, why let's say there was a niche group of people who like to go around still doing minstrel shows and doing blackface. If anyone gets caught doing blackface just a little bit, like even if it's not even like minstrel show level, but it's a Halloween and they bronze their skin or something and they're like a black person. I'm not even talking about Justin Trudeau blackface, just like a bit of bronzer or something. People lose their minds. Let's say we wanted to just be like, hey, no, that's totally legitimate. These people should be able to do that and just have all these books about why it's okay for people to wear blackface. They wouldn't do that. So why do you think it's appropriate to teach all these kids about drag? I know there's a lot of people who like drag entertainment. They like the raunchiness, the humor, or whatever. But it is pretty gross. If that's what people like, you like something a little weird, you can go ahead and do it or whatever. That doesn't mean it needs to intersect with the innocence of a child. And it certainly doesn't need to be taught in schools. Transgenderism, there's a lot of people with different disorders that they don't teach in elementary school. But this particular one, they're affirming things that aren't true. You can't just change your gender. You aren't a boy because you just think you're a boy. That's ridiculous. Sorry. That's ridiculous. You don't give kids books that say, well, Johnny the Walrus. Matt Walsh had a book called Johnny the Walrus, and there was a child who said that he was a walrus and he was playing around, and then his mom was like, oh my gosh, maybe he's actually a walrus. And then there are other parents who are like, you have to affirm that he's a walrus. Like, what are you doing? You have to affirm it. So the mother started treating the child as if they were a walrus and gave him food that walruses would have, and tried to, give him things to have like long teeth, that like tusks and things like that. And then they talked about actually sewing off pieces of his body and stuff. It just showed how ridiculous it is to just simply believe something and then affirm it because that's what a child believes, to the child's detriment. If there was someone who was dealing with schizophrenia or something and they believed something that was contrary to reality, you wouldn't force everyone else to come along and entertain the thing that's not real. You can teach people to have empathy for their condition and how to deal with people who are so uncomfortable, in this case with their body or whatever, but you don't affirm the delusion and you don't make everyone have to go along with that. And as far as homosexuality and things like that, like, didn't Florida already prove that parents on the right and the left don't want these themes and things introduced to their kids in an inappropriate way while they're young and like elementary and so on? The whole "we want gay marriage" thing, they were saying it's none of it's not everybody's business what goes on in the bedroom. It's private. Like, what do you talk? Like, that was the pitch, and now it's you have to learn about this stuff in the schools, which is interesting because in 2008 in California, I mentioned this before, when that was on the ballot, they were trying to ban gay marriage. The side that was trying to get rid of gay marriage, they were running commercials saying, if you pass gay marriage in California, they're going to have to teach this in the schools. Because we've already seen that in other parts of the country. They're going to teach it in the schools. And it seems pretty obvious that was what's going to happen, especially hindsight is 2020. But, Christians are always talking about slippery slopes and so on. But the side that was pro gay marriage was like, what? No, that's silly. What? No, that's crazy. We are not going to teach it in the schools. So not only is it being taught in the schools, they don't want you to be able to pull your child out of the school when they teach this stuff. Because they want your kids to affirm what they believe. And if you're a bigot parent, they want, to supersede you. And in the words of Chris Evans, you'll die out like a dinosaur. And I guess your child will usher in the new age. Right? So you have these activists who are saying this isn't just like a one-day event or something. Like, people just have to kind of get over it and get on board. And parents did not like this. You had Jews, Catholics, Protestants, Muslims, all against this. All against this. And what's interesting, yesterday, I played a clip of Rahm Emanuel talking on a podcast with a woman who was offended because he said that Democrats didn't care enough in the election about kitchen table issues, and they cared too much about like bathroom issues and so on. And she's like, how can you say that? Kamala Harris talked about kitchen table issues, and the right they're the ones who are obsessed with all the stuff. The right is reacting to these things. We had things that were normal and what's quote unquote, I guess, considered traditional. And then things get being changed. And then it was like, okay, well, we got it passed. We got through the Supreme Court, and, equality, love is love. A lot of people have changed their minds about it. And then it just kept going further and further and further, to the point where you have the LGBT community annoyed with the T community, and they're at odds with each other. But I'm not surprised, because I've seen a lot of these different protests with these parents at the school board meetings talking about all this stuff, pointing out different books that are very inappropriate for kids. And then you'll have the LGBT activists. Well, some activists like Gays Against Groomers or whatever come out and say this stuff shouldn't be in the schools. But a lot of activists will come out and say, like, you're attacking us because you don't want these things in the schools. It's like, okay, but this book here and that book there, this book here, those are sexually like inappropriate. So if we can't have sexually inappropriate books in the schools, you're saying that's somehow attacking your identity? It's somehow attacking your community? That's really weird. What are you saying about your community? I don't think you're being a very good advocate for what you like to achieve, or what I guess some people claim that you wanted to achieve. Maybe your goals are not so great if you want to put in books like genderqueer and this book is gay. So let me play some of this hearing. And it seems very clearly targeted at religious religious families and so on. So it should be a 9-0 hearing. I don't think it's going to be, but it ought to be. It ought to be. Okay, here we go.
And then I guess I am a bit mystified as a lifelong resident of the county, how it came to this. Can you just tell us what happened when in March of 23, what happened in terms of the objections and how the school board responded, to give us a little bit?
Well, I share your concern. Two of my kids graduated from MoCo and were opted out when they asked on their own accord to opt out of some instruction on sex education. And what happened is, we're not even entirely sure, because for the entire first year, the board promised in multiple places on Fox News and other media that parents would be notified and then they would be opted out. The last notice happened on March 22nd, 2023. The very next day, overnight, with no explanation, the board came out and said, we're changing the rule because we want all students to be instructed on inclusivity. That's at 547 in the appendix. That emphasis on all students have to receive this instruction, nothing about administrability. And then from there on, even then they said, if we've already told you you can opt out, we'll let you do that, but more parents can't ask. And then it wasn't until later in the year when they actually revised their guidelines, which still allow certain religious opt-outs and just not others. So this was clearly targeted at religious parents objecting.
But then complaints were raised, right?
That's right. Hundreds of parents complained. These were mostly, according to news articles, mostly families from Muslim faith and Ethiopian Orthodox who are objecting. When they spoke to the board accused them of using their religious beliefs as another reason to hate, accused a young Muslim girl of parroting her parents' dogma, and then accused the parents of aligning with racist xenophobes and white supremacists. And so, again, there's no question in this case that there is a burden, that it was imposed with animosity, and that it's discriminating against our clients because of their religious beliefs. Thank you.
Yeah. That's messed up. That's messed up. I wonder though, with all these people who are opting out who have religious backgrounds, how many people might just not have any religious backgrounds but don't want books about trans kids and trannies and so on being taught to their kids? How many people don't have the privilege of saying, I'm a special religious class and I don't want this for my kids? And they might not have that way of opting out. Like, shouldn't, if they're really afraid that too many parents will just not participate, they should just really not teach this stuff. I don't think that's too hard of a thing to understand. I want to play some of Justice Kavanaugh's questioning during this hearing. So let's listen to this part.
For any reason.
And then last point, just to comment, and you can respond to it as you want, but Maryland was founded on religious liberty and religious tolerance, a haven for Catholics escaping persecution in England, going back to 1649. I'm sure you're aware of this history. And Montgomery County has been a beacon of that religious liberty for all these years, with a strong Catholic population, a substantial Jewish population, lots of different Protestant. I mean, you drive down any Connecticut Avenue or George Avenue, you see religious building after religious building. And I guess I'm surprised, given that this is the hill we're going to die on in terms of not respecting religious liberty, given that history. And so history comes up, I just want to give you a chance to respond to how you situate that in Maryland and Montgomery County's history.
Every school board walks a tightrope, as this court has recognized and other courts have recognized. It's a difficult job balancing the interests of a diverse community. Montgomery County Public Schools are the most religiously diverse in the country. There may be different ways to handle this under other circumstances. Montgomery County did its best under these circumstances, given their curricular goals. That seems to me a fundamentally different question, and it's an important one, but it is a fundamentally different question about whether there's a constitutional right to opt your child out of curriculum that you deem religiously offensive.
Thank you. It's a tough case to argue. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it is a tough case to argue. He's gonna try though. You know, they say that they need to have this curriculum because they're dedicated to inclusion. But, you know, all of this inclusion is it pushes out a lot of religious people, or at least they want to be pushed out because it doesn't jive with them. So it's always interesting because so many on the left want to uplift Muslims, you know, when it's, I don't know, convenient for them. They see them, I don't know, maybe they think in their mind, here's a brown group of people. Maybe they think Christianity is a little too white and Western or whatever. So they want to give Islam a pass for a lot of things. And they view them as like perpetual victims. So they give them all the status or whatever. But when it comes to their actual beliefs, they just want to I don't know, I guess just refer to them as bigots and chuck them in with everybody else. Like in Michigan, was it Hamtramck? Yeah, it was in Hamtramck. We covered the story when it came out, but they issued a policy in Hamtramck. Everybody is on the council is Muslim and the mayor is Muslim, and they passed something that said all the flags that were going to fly on city property are going to be government sort of flags. You're going to have the state flag, you're going to have the USA flag, the POW flag, the city flag, and there's another flag, but I can't recall what it is. But the LGBT community were upset about that because they said it was discriminating against them not to be able to fly pride flags. Now they could fly pride flags on their own property. They could fly the pride flags on their own private properties and home and so on. You just couldn't do it on city property. So they were like, this is a neutral policy that's meant to be respectful. You can't fly a Christian flag. You can't fly a Muslim flag. You can't fly a BLM flag. You can't fly any of that stuff. But they were like, no, we are a group that has been targeted and persecuted for so long, when you treat us like we're neutral, it's still discrimination. Like that was that was their mindset. That was their mindset. And you had all these people who came out to protest. And there was actually one gay couple that like made out. I mean, it wasn't like full on, but they did kiss in front of the council in their protest. And I'm like, oh yeah, that'll really show the Muslims. But get them on your side by you kissing each other in the protection of United States of America, why don't you go to a Muslim country and see if you get away with that. I don't recommend that, by the way. And then you have the Attorney General, who is married to a woman, who is also a woman, because you can be man married to a woman. So she's a lesbian. She came out, not to the student, to the council or whatever, but someone had hosted an event in their backyard or something, and she came out and read a little speech. I have a video on that in my archive. You guys can go back and search and find that if you'd like. But they wanted these special privileges, and they are bumping heads with this very religious community who they otherwise like to uplift because they see them, very much as in the victim status in the hierarchies or whatever. Why? I don't know. Maybe it's, again, just maybe to them Christianity is too white, it's too Western, too that's a colonizer sort of thing, which is very strange if you don't look at Islam like that, because that's way what they're about. Kind of colonizers, man. But they're brown and they're not West, so they uplift them on a higher status than what they would normally view the backwoods Christian thinkers or whatever, even though there's a lot of things that the Abrahamic faiths obviously have in common. So the inclusion, it's about their ideology not making space really for everybody. I don't think so. Like when you see those coexist bumper stickers and they have the different religions and signs and whatever on there, and it's about everyone coexisting together, and that's the message that they allegedly want to get out. I don't feel that that's usually the case when I encounter people with that coexist stuff, because if coexisting, we all coexist with each other anyway. Like in some places, the world, they don't I guess really allow that, but we largely coexist in the United States of America. We can live cordially with one another. We can have different beliefs, as far as religion, as far as politics, what our hobbies, our likes, our interests, and so on. We can work together, be cordial, enjoy sports games together and all this kinds of different things, and live peaceably, and if you don't like something that I do, that's cool. I don't have to force it on you, and you don't have to force things on me. We're coexisting. But a lot of people who like those coexisting bumper stickers, they do like to force ideology on people. Use my pronouns or else. I want your speech limited. I want your business shut down if you won't make me a transgender cake, or which they try to get like Jack Phillips on that too. But the gay wedding cake, or the you have to do my floral arrangements, and you have to let me use your venue, or all these different things, or else you don't deserve to be in business. So that when people talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, they don't seem like they're very much into their own ethic. It's really about pushing a lot of their own ideology. Here's another clip with Brett Kavanagh questioning about the situation, saying they're not actually asking you to change what's in the curriculum. But they don't want people to have to be able to walk out because too many people would opt out.
In the country has opt-outs for all sorts of things. The county has opt-outs for all sorts of things. The other Maryland counties have opt-outs for all sorts of things. And yet for this one thing, they changed in mid-year and say no more opt-outs. I'm just not understanding feasibility.
So again, I think what's in the record is that with respect to these books, as they were deployed in the classroom, there was high absenteeism in some schools. For example, dozens of students being opted out in, I think Mr. Baxter said the average size of an elementary school in Montgomery County is 700 students. So each grade is 125. If you have dozens of students walking out, making arrangements for those students to have adequate space and supervision and alternative instruction, I think is infeasible.
But then they do it for all sorts of other opt-outs.
They don't do it for all sorts of other opt-outs. There's a limited universe of things that students can opt out from. The Family Life and Healthy Sexuality curriculum stands alone. It is mandated by the state. It is something where you are able to predict precisely when the curriculum is going to be deployed. There's
It's the most similar substantively to what we have here, and there's an opt-out allowed there. I guess I'm not understanding why Montgomery County School Board stands alone, I think, in the country, You can tell me if there's another school board that's done something like this.
I don't. I apologize.
Both the kind of books that are being used and prohibiting opt-outs. And I guess I'm just not understanding the whole goal, I think, of some of our religion precedents is to look for the win-win, to look for the situation where you can respect the religious beliefs and accommodate the religious beliefs while the state or city or whatever it may be can pursue its goals. And here, they're not asking you to change what's taught in the classroom. They're not asking you to change that at all. A lot of the rhetoric suggests that they might have, that they were trying to do that, but that's not what they're trying to do. They're only seeking to be able to walk out so that they don't have to, the parents don't have their children exposed to these things that are contrary to their own beliefs.
I understand, Your Honor, and there may well be circumstances where a school can
it's very generous, I guess, that they're not even asking them to change the curriculum and they just really want the option to opt out. Because one way or another, even if they opt out, even if they pull their kids out of the school, they are still paying with their tax dollars for those schools to teach that curriculum. I would not want that to be the case. I understand them arguing the case and just really going in with those parameters of we would just like the option to be able to opt out. And to me, it is wild. It is wild to me that they're like, no, there's too many absences when we allow them to opt out. This is This is why so many schools, public schools and stuff, do not want private school choice and stuff because they don't want options for people to be able to be empowered to vote with their feet. Like, oh, my child isn't learning enough here. Oh, I don't like what they're being taught. Oh, maybe the lunch program is bad or the athletics isn't what I would like. Okay, I'm going to move my child to this other school, like take some of those dollars and it's a private school or charter school, whatever. Or maybe I'm just going to go ahead and homeschool and use some of those dollars, toward the education or whatever of my child. They don't want that. They don't want some kind of competition. So you are literally teaching something that many of the parents find offensive, that they find sinful. And you don't care about how they feel. You don't care about their morals, their values, screw diversity or whatever there and inclusion, whatever. You don't like what they teach and what they believe, and you don't care that that you're offending them. You can't please everybody. Okay. I get that, but they want this option to opt out and you won't even let them do it. You won't even let them do it. And not only will you not let them do it, you took this case all the way to the Supreme Court. You took it all the way to the Supreme Court, spent all this money in legal fees to shut down parents. And the Democrats still don't understand why they lost the election. They still don't understand. Like, we care about kitchen table issues. It's the Republicans that are so concerned about all this LGBT trans stuff. They're the ones always bringing it up. Really. I wonder why we have to talk about it. We're supposed to just go silently into the night while you guys indoctrinate our kids. That's what we're just supposed to do. Just shut up and take it and like it. Yeah, right. Ketanji Brown Jackson. Now I said it should be like a 9-0. But she said something along the lines of, well, they could just put their kids in an actual like different school if they don't like what's going on.
And I guess I'm struggling to see how it burdens a parent's religious exercise if the school teaches something that the parent disagrees with. You have a choice. You don't have to send your kid to that school. You can put them in another situation. And I guess
you can send your child to just a different, just pull. Is that what everybody wants, the end game, to everyone just to pull their kid out of the district? That would be an easier solution than allowing the opt out or just not teaching the curriculum. All these parents, the hundreds who have protested, or the dozens who tried to opt out, if they just pulled their kids out, I know they're hoping that the parents won't go that far and they'll just have to suck it up and deal with it and keep their kids in school, because it is a hard transition for people who might be working to just be like, okay, we're going to homeschool our kid, or a really big expense to put them in private school or whatever. Public school is available for a lot of people. I'll rag on them, but I did graduate from public school. Some of the ones I graduated from were fine. Like half of my career was at a fine school, my school career, whatever, when I moved out to like a rural area, and it was worlds away different as far as teaching and the access to different things, resources. Like the middle school I went to in Pontiac, they had, a couple computers like that you could have access to or whatever. And then I went to middle school and they had computer labs. I mean, we had like a computer lab class to learn like typing and stuff like that. I think in Pontiac. Or did I? But and you had like some at the library or whatever, but you just had so much more when I went to Holly. Everything was different and better. So where you send your kids to school can make a heck of a difference. Now I don't know what it's like now because I graduated in 2007, but I'm not trying to ream on all necessarily all public schools, but there's a lot to be desired with quite a lot of them. But even so, there's a lot of parents who feel like they can't just take their kids out of the school. So, but it's funny though that they're saying, oh, well, they can just go to a different school. You can just take them out of the school if they don't like what the school teaches. And mind you, this is a public school that serves the community, that's paid for with taxpayer dollars. Like, who else are they supposed to serve, right? So you're supposed to just remove your kids from the public school if you don't like what the public school teaches. But if you own a private business and someone comes in and they're like, hey, I want you to bake this cake for my wedding, the response from the side of the aisle that Ketanji Brown Jackson is on is normally, hey, that's not right. You should bake that cake. They don't say go to another cake shop. They don't say go to another floral shop. That's not what they do. But the public school versus private cake shop, the owner can't just say, I have these sincerely religious held beliefs. Can you, if you want this special thing done, like you can buy anything that's already pre-made. I'm not going to make a special cake for your wedding. And if you don't like that, I respect you, but I can't do it. But I can recommend you a place. They're like, oh no, I want to sue you and take you to court, which by the way, this has already been like settled as far as the Supreme Court. You had Masterpiece Cake Shop, but that was a very limited scope kind of ruling. The 303 Creative case gave a much broader execution. I don't remember if Ketanji was if she ruled on that decision or not. I don't remember if she was if she was on the bench yet and what she said about it. Because this is, if anyone in the comments knows how she ruled on that. Like, I know she came in around like the Harvard case, but she recused herself for that. Sorry, I'm like skimming. It seemed like she did rule in that case. Oh yeah, she did, because she was asking, she asked a question, can you give me your thoughts on photography business in a shopping mall during a holiday season that offers a product called Scenes with Santa, and the business wants to express its own view of nostalgia about Christmas past by reproducing classic 1940s and 1950s Santa scenes. They do it in sepia tone, and they are customizing each one. That is not off the rack. They're really bringing the people in and having them interact with Santa children, because they're trying to capture the feelings of a certain era. But precisely because they're trying to capture the feelings of a certain era, their policy is that only white children can be photographed with Santa in the way, because that's how they view the scenes with Santa that they're trying to depict. So yes, because she was trying to compare it with the 303 creative case with like different racial things. So she did rule in that case and was a part of it. So yeah. So it's funny who has to just kind of get over it when it's your ideology at stake. If you're unfamiliar with the 303 creative case or forgot, 303 creative case, there was a I think a graphic designer out in Colorado. Colorado is where Jack Phillips, who had the Masterpiece Cake Shop, who was sued for not baking a cake for a wedding, and then they ruled in his favor at the Supreme Court, but it was very broad, very narrow, kind of how they ruled it. So he ended up getting dinged again by Colorado's like anti-discrimination stuff when someone tried to sue him for not making a gender cake or something. And so Colorado has a history of being troublesome for Christians. So this graphic designer decided to jump the gun and go ahead and sue, and went up to the Supreme Court and stuff, because some people on the left were like, she doesn't have standing. I'm like, Colorado has a pattern of continuously making trouble for different Christians, so it's not like there's not an issue to be concerned about. So they ruled that you wouldn't be forced to bake the cake or whatever, but it's not, people think about it too much just as like it's not even like just a religious thing. It's also like a freedom of expression, freedom of association thing too. So you might be a gay baker and you might not want to bake cupcakes for a conversion therapy camp. You have the right to not do that. So it's one of those other things where there's a neutral law in place for everybody, but a lot of the LGBT community is like, how dare you, in the Greta Thunberg voice. So I think there was another Kavanagh clip that I wanted to show you guys. Maybe not. Maybe I played all the ones that I wanted to. Even Randy Whiteguard, who's the teachers union president, had admitted that she wouldn't want some of these books to be read in the classroom. I just got a little short clip to show.
But, you know, just as an example, my pronouns are like the weather. They change depending on how I feel, and that's okay because they're my words. Sometimes I use all the pronouns I can think of, just as one example here.
Let me put it this way,
Go ahead.
Martha, and I think that this will be shocking to you. These would not be the books I would be reading as a classroom teacher to kids who are 4 to 6 years old.
So tell your union thugs to back off. Like, tell the teachers and all these folks to get aligned with what's common sense, you know. And she knows it's nonsense. These people know it's nonsense. Can you imagine your kid going to school and they're learning about a book like, I can use my pronouns. My gender is like the wind. Why would you want a child like that, who's raised like that, to think like that? Why? Why do we think that's good for society? When you should be learning structure and order and the way the world works. It doesn't work around you. You have to learn to work your way in it. And everybody's just supposed to be like, oh, your pronouns are this today. Your pronouns are that today. They're your feelings. They're your words. They're 4 to 6. I wonder if my niece even knows what pronouns are. I'll have to ask her. I'm not sure. I'm not even sure. When do you start learning about that stuff in school? 4 to 6, and that's nonsense at any age. So I'd be surprised if the courts didn't rule in the favor of the parents and religious liberty. I guess there's a question of how broad it will be beyond just like religious liberty, and if other people should be able to opt out of different stuff like this, because I'm sure there are parents who aren't Muslim, who aren't Orthodox, who aren't Catholic, Protestant, whatever, who don't want this stuff taught to their kids. And I think they should be able to opt out of that with just, I'm an atheist, but I don't want my kid to learn that. I think they should be able to do that. I don't think that should be a special privilege that is just for the religious community. I mean, what do you guys think? I don't think that that should be just something that my kid should be able to opt out of. And then they say, how far will this go? Well, this is a silly thing that doesn't need to be taught. Math, science, history, literature. It's simple stuff you would teach to the kids. The reason why they want all this stuff in this classroom is to make themselves feel better. And you do not need to live vicariously through these kiddos. You don't. You do not need to invoke your activism and then make everybody else participate because you have whatever kind of trauma you have and didn't feel like people accepted you enough. So you have to indoctrinate other people's kids. So the parents can just die out like dinosaurs. Abel said, reading, writing, arithmetic, basic science, history should be everything that's taught in public schools. There's room for different stuff in different classrooms. You know, you might take a religious class or something, you know, or whatever, and learn about different things that are out of the box. But as far as the core stuff, especially when you're talking about elementary and so on, like, again, I thought we learned a valuable lesson in Florida because they tried to take out Governor Ron DeSantis with the Don't Say Gay bill when that wasn't the name of the bill. That line wasn't even in there. It said that you can't teach gender ideology or sexual orientation. They didn't say same sex. They just said sexual orientation in grades K through 3 in a way that's deemed inappropriate. And also you couldn't hide different things from the parents. Like if the child was struggling with something like gender dysphoria and you just want to hide it or whatever, that's something that's wrong with their mind. You should want to tell the parents so they can get them acceptable care and not try to hide it and develop a double life and cause a rift between the parents and the child. That's insane to me. Oh gosh, that's an instance where I'd want to throw hands if I found out like a parent, like a teacher or whatever was doing that. I'm not saying you should throw hands because you go to jail, but don't try people with their kids, okay? Oh my gosh. So anyway, they tried to just call it the Don't Say Gay bill. And they touted out different parents who had to go through different schools, the drama of them trying to do this double identity thing, having schools make gender plans of where the kids were going to stay on overnight trips and all kinds of stuff. So they exposed those things and why it was necessary for them to make that bill. And when they would go out and explain it to people on the left and the right, Republicans and Democrats, all agreed with it. But you had people in different states saying, "Oh, come to New York. We support all this. Come to California. Come to Michigan. Oh, these terrible Don't Say Gay bills." And then Disney's dumb butt weighed in. That's when I got real mad at Disney. Because Disney had different talent, their writers or whatever, who was pressuring, saying, "I'm so sad because they're just going to stay out of it." And then Disney was like, "Okay, well, we're going to try to raise money to get this thing repealed." I'm like, excuse me? So if I go pay for a movie ticket to go see a Marvel film, you're going to use that money to try to indoctrinate my children on some nonsense? I haven't watched it. I haven't paid to see anything Disney in a long time. And grew up on comic books. I used to go midnight, not even midnight, 8:00 Thursday night, 7:00 if it was possible, on the Marvel films with family, friends, church members. That used to be my thing. I'm not necessarily a Disney adult, but I like animated films. I went to school for animation for a little bit. I like that medium. I haven't seen, I don't know what was the last new thing that I saw. I guess the last new thing that I saw was probably like all the way through. I guess it was probably Frozen 2. But that's because my nieces were watching it on Disney Plus. It's not because I went to the movies or anything. I don't know what was the last Disney cartoon, or I guess the last thing I saw in theaters might have been Incredibles 2. And the last Marvel film that I saw in theaters was probably Far From Home. No, not Far From Home. Homecoming. Yeah, no, I think Far From Home is with Mysterio. I think that was the last one I saw. And the last Disney Plus show that I watched was WandaVision. So I haven't been engaged in a while. It seems like they're trying to clean up their act. So I'm not saying I'm gonna forever not watch Disney stuff, but I was mad at Disney. We were beefing. But I think they've learned it's not good to turn on all the people who made you money throughout the years. So anyway, that's all I have to say. I'm sure that the court will rule in the favor of these parents. And I just don't know. There's a clip someone posted. It's captioned, "These are bad people." And I don't know what's in the audio. I'm very curious. Maybe we should watch it together. I was about to close us out. If it's juicy, we can talk about it tomorrow. But we can talk about it tomorrow. But I think the right thing will prevail. There's a question of like how broad it will be as far as curriculum in the future. But this stuff should not be forced upon the kids. And to think that parents who pay for these schools to exist, pay the salaries of the people who work there, who make the curriculum, that they don't have a say in what happens in the school is insane. There was in the midterms, and there was in Michigan, the Michigan Party put out an image that said, who said that it's the parents that get to decide what the curriculum is? It's the society who gets to. Well, I think the society who gets to decide or whatever. I think that's what it said. And I'm like, who makes up the society? And why don't you think the parents are in the society? What? You don't think the people who pay pay their taxes so you can have a job are part of the society? And they don't get a say? And it was so bizarre that when I first saw it, I was charitable to the Democrat Party. And I'm like, is this real? And so I had to double check it. And it was real. They actually posted it. Now they deleted it. And they're like, oh, this doesn't reflect the views of our candidates. I'm like, okay. Man, I used to work at the Michigan Republican Party. If I had posted something like that, I wouldn't have had a job. I don't know what kind of repercussions were done for the person who posted that, but I would not have had a job if I had posted something so crazy. And I don't know what it was in Michigan with the Republicans, because I would have had that post on every piece of literature that I put out. I would have mailed it to people's houses. I would have left it on people's doors, because not everybody reads stuff online. It did like break through to national news, but people, I don't even have kids right now, but just the thought of people messing with my kids. So I can only imagine how you parents out there feel, because my hypothetical future children got my blood boiling. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me today. Please go to blacktnews.com, check out different content, website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do, please consider leaving a donation on the website, because it does cost a stream on my site, all that good stuff, so you guys can support. I very much appreciate it, and appreciate you guys. Check out different merch that's available on the website, different t-shirts and stuff, different mugs, like the black tea mug. We got the "You Are Not That Special" t-shirt. I got that on a mug too. So you guys can check that out. Also check out some of my books that I have, like Super Kid is a children's chapter books. Does not have woke stuff in it, I promise you. And the subject matter, especially for the first book, there's the main character Felix. He is bullied a bit and has to learn, to find what makes him special, and to rely on that, not so much how mean people treat him or whatever. So thought I mentioned that I had a bully who came in my comments earlier, and I'm just like, you guys don't know, you guys don't think I know that I'm fat? Like like yeah, like cheeseburgers, they're great, like they're amazing. But you know what, I guess it's refreshing though, because usually people come at me and they talk about the gap in my teeth, and I don't know why. I don't mind it, but that's usually the thing that they go for. So it is actually refreshing to see people go for the weight, I guess. Though that was lame. They're like, ooh, looks like you like cheeseburgers. My brother once, now he's a big guy too. But we would do fat jokes with each other. He once took the song Thumbelina from the cartoon movie Thumbelina and rewrote the words and called me a tiny whale in a skirt. So I just don't think that internet trolls are going to be able to get me as well as people close to home. So nice try. Anyway, thank you guys. And so was I think I'd more offended if someone thought I was vegan. You know what? I think that's the case. I'd be like, why would you think I'm vegan? Though, I always kind of raise my brow, like, you vegan. If someone says like they're a vegetarian or something for dietary reasons or something, it's kind of like, okay, I guess I can understand that. But anyway, God bless you guys. I'll see you tomorrow.